Wouldn't it be great if you knew everything that you know now, right when you began your career? Well, I gave Jenn Chase an opportunity to go back in time and deliver a little bit of advice to her younger self about leadership communication. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Karin Reed. I'm a four-time author, Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist, and communication expert on helping people to own the room, whether it be a physical one or a virtual one. Welcome to Speaker Dynamics. So Jenn, I really love to ask people to think back to where they were, even at like the beginning of their career and kind of put themselves in their early year shoes. And so I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about what advice you would give to your younger self about leadership communication. What do you wish you knew that you at that time that you know now?
Yeah, it's such a great question. In fact, I've written recently on my journey to CMO. What are the things I wished I had told my younger self? If I focus it on communication, I think actually it's the same as just my journey to being a CMO. And there's a lot around just resiliency and not being afraid to pivot and change course. And when you do, you have to make sure that you're communicating with consistency and clarity all along the way. And that's going to make it so that you are being a leader that people understand, that you're a leader that people want to follow because they understand what the mission is. They understand what their role is in achieving that mission, and their heart and minds are in it.
That's interesting. So do you feel like perhaps that's something that leaders don't do naturally? Maybe they keep too much information close to the vest?
Yeah, I do. I think we often feel like, or sometimes leaders can feel like, do the employees need to know all of this? Well, the reality is, in many cases they do, in order to feel at the passion and the why behind why we're doing something. We've invested actually a lot recently here at SAS around change management, and so much of change management is change communications and really making sure people understand the why and the case for change and what their role is in it and what success is going to look like at the end, really painting that full vision. And I probably didn't feel like it when I was earlier in my career that I either was qualified to paint that vision or that somebody would want to hear it. And I think that part is just so important.
Well, especially if you're drinking from the fire hose, you've got so much that you have to do. Sometimes it's a matter of just like putting your head down and getting it done and not realizing, well, I should look up and say, hey, here's what's going on, and then put your head back down. I think that's a very common thing that we have a tendency to do if you are, just overwhelmed with a lot of work that you're in the midst of, communicating that out, but that's really critical. So, especially as you are, as SAS is moving to IPO, that's a whole different kind of communication that requires transparency, perhaps not really done, to the same degree as will be required. So, has it shifted your role a little bit in terms of like how you approach communicating out?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're still on that journey towards IPO readiness, and as a company learning how do we need to communicate differently. Everything from what is the cadence to is it quarterly communications, how quickly we need to communicate, when we communicate, into which audience. And so absolutely, it is changing a lot of how we think about communications here for sure.
So the young Jenn Chase should know. Take the time to look up from the laptop, the desktop, and let people know who you are and what you're about and the work that you're doing. Would be a good interpretation of it?
I absolutely. And I think that gets back to authenticity. Let people know who you are. what your thoughts are, how you see that shaping the direction that you're taking, whether it's on a project, with a team or with a division or with a company, right? I think it's just as you take on more responsibility, it's that part that scales. But what doesn't change is that no matter the size of what you're communicating, you have to communicate from the heart and communicate a vision.
Can I ask you a question about your communication with your daughter?
Yes.
All right. So, the mini me of Jenn Chase in the form of your daughter, how do you advise her when it comes to communicating? Are there things that you share with her that, are lessons that you've learned?
Yeah. And I think gosh, I admire my 13-year-old. I say, I don't think I was as direct with my feelings at 13 years old as she is, which some days is not great. I'll get a whole lot of feelings.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm encouraging her right now is to be an advocate for herself. And so she really does a great job of communicating with her teachers. What does she need in order to be successful for some challenges that she faces? She's an advocate for herself when she talks with her friends. And I think we have a lot of conversations around consent. And part of consent is communicating what is a boundary for you, communicating clearly what matters to you. And so yeah, those are some of the I would say sticky conversations that we have. But I love how confident she is with her voice, and how clear she is with what she needs to be successful.
Yeah, you're setting a wonderful example, Jenn, and I appreciate you sharing that from a professional standpoint as well as a personal standpoint. So thanks again for having this fun conversation with me.
Oh, thank you, Karin.